Hello, my name is Brian Hegney. I'm instructor of communication. Hello, my name is Brian Hegney. I'm instructor of communication at High Point University in lovely High Point, North Carolina. Um, my daughter is homesick today, so this is fun. Why don't you go sit down again? Shut the door.
You'll be sorry. Ouch.
Okay. I have a limited amount of time to do this, so we don't want to waste our students' time.
Okay, I won't.
Alright. So last we left off, we had a repeating pattern that looks really dull. Like for right now we use the lighting of the room. But this carpet doesn't look like the carpet outside, right? So how do we get it to do that? And today I'm just going to show you a couple different adjustment layers that we use in Photoshop that maybe some of you learned in 11.11 or 11.13 or something like that. So this is an image right now. It's a single layer, and as you can see, it's pretty washed out. There's a couple things I want to do. The first thing I want to do is I think let's add a curves adjustment layer. Curves adjustment layer, now that's going to affect the RGB of a layer, right? So right now you and I know that this is a reddish carpet, yellow carpet. There's very little blues. So what I personally want to do is click on, you know what? I'm lying. I'm actually gonna use the curves later. The first thing I want to do is add the levels adjustment layer. Now it looks like the same image. That's a histogram you're looking at. And it's the histogram for all of the channels, red, green, and blue. So what I want to do is first click this little drop down button. Notice we're in the properties panel in Photoshop of this levels adjustment layer. If I were to click on the layer 0, we'd be in the properties panel right up here. We'd see properties for the layer. So I want to see the properties for the levels. Specifically, I'm going to look at the red channel. Now, for levels, what levels does, what levels does is it tells you which pixels are absolute dark and which pixels are absolute light. And right now we can see that over to the left here is absolute dark, and we have no pixels there. And over to the right is absolute light. So if there were white, if this graph stretched over here, we'd have some absolute white pixels in our image. So luckily these sliders exist to say, hey, nope, I'm gonna give myself absolute red sliders. And just to show you what this really looks like, if we go to RGB, which is all of them, as I drag this dark slider over to the right, you can see that when you do that, you're telling Photoshop, no, now these pixels are the darkest pixels. And now we'll do the same thing with the light pixels, or with the lightest pixels. And when we do that, we're basically increasing the dynamic range of the pixels in the image. And so if we toggle that on and off, we can see it goes from a very gray image with nothing that's truly dark or truly light to a much more dynamic image. It's still not that amazing. You know what? I'll keep it there. Sometimes I like to go to each individual channel and adjust the sliders. I'm going to keep it here for simplicity's sake. We'll really tweak with the red channels in the curves. So now I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer. And in this case, I could do the RGB all together. I'm going to go right to the red though. And what I like to do is increase my red. And that by left clicking and dragging in here. And basically here is, these are our shadows, these are our midtones, and to the right is our highlights. So when I'm pushing this up in the middle, I'm still increasing the reds in my shadows, I'm increasing the reds in my highlights, but I'm majority pushing up the reds of my midtones. And you can see that if I were to add another left click dot there and really increase that, you could see I'm increasing the reds in the lightest portions of that image. But I don't want that, so I'm just going to click the delete key, delete that node. Same thing if I did that for the dark. Right, you can see I'm increasing the reds in the dark. But of course, that's really weird. I don't want to do that. Next thing, I'm going to skip green, because green doesn't necessarily affect me that much. I'm going to go to the blue. I dislike blue, and if I do drag that down, that is where I'm now, when you take the blue out of it, it is increasing the reds and oranges just a little bit. Alright. Is that good? That's one thing. Okay, it's still not amazing. But I can toggle these off just to see what it looks like before. What does it look like with the levels? What it looks like with the curves? And maybe now I'll add vibrance. And I'm going to increase the vibrance level. Uh-oh. Oh, good. Vibrance was designed to not oversaturate things. So there we go. And I'm going to... I don't want to saturate it too much, and I'm going to toggle that on and off just to see if that works. Okay, so that's cool. That looks like it's kind of nice. And then, of course, I'm going to check it using the filter, other, offset, and to see how this looks. And of course, because I'm doing it in front of you all, that does not look amazing. And we can fix that though. Cancel. Alright, so this is not perfect, and it's annoying me because I had a much better one really easily, but there is a way to fix it, and I did want to actually show people this. So, number one, you've seen how to use vibrance, you've seen how to use curves, you've seen how to use levels, so those are all great. But now it needs to get a little tricky, because this area right in here, I actually want that to be less green, if you will. So one thing we can try is to again add a second curves adjustment. And this curves adjustment layer, I actually only want it to affect this area here. So I'm going to paint black by using my B brush tool, or tap B for your brush tool here. Make sure black is this top square here by either doing, I click on it and actually drag it down to black. And then make sure you're drawing on this white box here in your layers panel on the curves and drawing it here. Of course, it's not going to look like anything yet, except for in this little section here, you can see I painted black on that mask. But when we go to our properties for curves, I'm going to go to green and I'm going to drag it down to get rid of curves a little bit. And the other thing I'm going to do is paint in here, because the red seemed fine. And so what I'm doing is basically telling Photoshop to only adjust the greens. Well, I'll show you in a second, because I'm in the middle of something. Oh, this is good. I hope this works. Okay. Now, I only want it to affect the yellow leaves, right? So if I alt-click the mask that I've been drawing on, I can see what I painted white and black. And if I alt-click again, you can kind of see, again, the reason why was that this curves adjustment layer is only going to be affecting, or should only affect, those weird leaves that are just greener than the rest of the things. And let's paint this. There. You know, did it work? I'm not sure, but there. And then, of course, you should stand back just to make sure. And I think that actually did a lot. The next thing I might do is look at my other adjustments and think I'm going to do the same thing with hue saturation. And I'm going to once again make sure I'm only affecting the right bottom section, because I see that as a major problem. And change that hue. Yeah, just... You see how I can change it all like that? You can totally tell that I'm changing it. What I'm trying to do is just adjust it slightly so that all of those leaves are the same color. And we'll try that. We'll try that for right now. And what I have to do is save this. I'm definitely going to save this as a new one. Cropped 02. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to flatten this entire thing. So I'm going to just click it and click on Layer, Flatten Image. And when I click on, again, Filter, Other, Offset, I can determine how good that was. And again, it's not amazing, but it is much better. And in later classes, we'll get into more photoshopping. This is just meant to be an intro. So we're going to accept this. And let's see what we're going to do here now. Before we finish saving this as a PNG, I want to actually go into the image size and say, okay, it's 546 pixels by 240 pixels, but I really need this to be in multiples of 2, and it's okay if it's a long rectangle. So for this image, I'm actually going to have it be 256, 512 pixels by 256 pixels. And then that way, and 72 pixels per inch is fine. It doesn't matter what it's rendered at, or what the resolution is, because it's 256 pixels by 512. So that's your powers of 2 are 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 120, 8, 256, 512, 1024, etc. So this is 512 by 256, so it's a rectangle image. Now it will go into a game engine pretty well, and from here I'm going to save it as a PNG, and I'm going to call this, Carpet 03D cropped to PNG. Save it as a large file is fine, and in the next video we're going to import that into Unreal and just show you basic how to do that. Okay, bye, bye,
Adios,
bye. Adios,
amigos.
amigos.